and gentlemen, welcome to week, 14? We're already in week 14? That is ridiculous. It feels like the season just started, guys.
That's the worst part about college football, that it just goes by so damn fast.
It's here and it's gone. The best time of the year is already over.
It is. What is the tradition? The tradition is to ask what everyone's drinking, right? Welcome to the show, Mr. Will of the Oklahoma State fandom. I believe living in duress in Austin, Texas, right?
That's what I say.
That's the thing.
And we got JJ over there just outside Philadelphia.
Hour or so, maybe more than that away.
I don't know. Let's see.
Me,
how far is Austin from Stillwater?
It's going to be about 8 or 9 hours driving.
8 or 9 hours.
So
you're still
making a trek this
still
weekend.
A lot closer.
You're still the furthest away from your school. Then I'm from Norman, but I live in Shreveport. So it's about I can make that drive depending on the number of police officers on I-20. I can make that drive anywhere between 4.5 to 5.5 hours. Depends on how many times I have to slam the brakes because I see a cop car.
How many games have you been able to make it back at all to Norman this year?
I have not been to a single game in Norman this year. I unfortunately have a job that has a tendency to want to work on Saturday. So it's like really bad because I can't go to the games and watch them live. But it's also really good because it's a hell of a lot of overtime. So I could afford to go to all of the games. I just can't get off work to go to all the games. It's great. So what are you drinking today, Will? I saw you had a little can there. What you got?
Yeah, this is just a little Rambler. It's just a little sparkling water. I got a big day tomorrow. We've got 4 gallons of homebrew sitting on the back porch. So big day tomorrow. So I figured I better take it easy tonight for Thanksgiving.
I hear you. Abney, are you doing the same? Are you taking it easy tonight, taking it slow?
I got nothing right now. I'm a little out of sorts. We're doing this so early this week. I wasn't prepared.
Yeah, I wasn't ready. I don't have my drink. You probably drank the cupboard dry after last week's game too.
Oh, I absolutely did.
Well then, I guess I'm drinking the strongest drink tonight, a cold glass of milk, ladies and gentlemen, fortified with vitamin D, super strong, super muscly. Yes, it's like 4 o'clock on a Wednesday. We're recording this, so alcohol not the biggest priority of the day. Let's move in to the meat of the show, though, guys. Before we do that, I do want to let you all know we have a ton of these really awesome channels called social media channels. We've got a Twitter, we've got a Facebook, we've got a YouTube channel, and of course our Twitch channel. Pretty much all / From the Stands. Facebook is / From the Stands Sports. Twitter, From the Stands US. YouTube, C / From the Stands. And Twitch / From the Stands. And that's pretty much everything for our social media. So make sure you follow us. We really appreciate it. It helps us out a lot. Show us a little bit of love, and I promise we'll show you a little love back. All right? Perfection. Let's see what we have on here this week. It's going to be our Hate Week special. It is indeed Rivalry Week. So we wanted to do something a little special today.
Oh boy.
All right, we've got the good, the bad, and the dead. Yes, the good, the bad, and the dead. So the good, we're going to pick our favorite rivalries. We're going to talk to you about them, give you a little bit of history on them, see what things may happen this week during Rivalry Week. We're also going to take the bad. We're going to take a look at some of the most lopsided rivalries in college football history. And, of course, we have the dead, which is going to be those rivalries that unfortunately no longer exist in the college football world, but one that we would love, love, love to see back. Will, why don't we start with your good pick? What's your favorite rivalry?
I wouldn't say it's my favorite. Obviously, my favorite rivalry is somewhere between Bedlam and Texas. But I think, if you take a step back from the macro scale, you really have to respect what Ohio State has done, winning 7 straight against Michigan. But those games have been some really solid football games. In that stretch, you've got one that goes to double overtime, one decided by a single point and another that's like a 5 point game. So yeah, Michigan's had their opportunities to win, but just because this year and the past 7 years have been ugly, doesn't mean it's not still a solid series, right? And so, I mean,
Absolutely.
even kid, as a Sooner fan, you sure love to point at series record when you're talking about it. So I'd be remiss not to remind you that Michigan still leads this one 58-50 and 6 ties in this series. So it's a very solid rivalry, and I think it's one of the best ones
It's
in
a
college
it's a
football.
small
Yeah.
gap though. 8 games. You said it was 58-50.
The thing about they won 7 straight, so that was
Wow.
15 games,
Wow.
earlier this decade.
That's crazy.
that-
I think
that's
Ohio State could actually pull that one back out ahead.
Oh,
Personally,
really?
I do.
In what, 10 years, 20 years, or?
I think 20 years, yeah. If Ohio State keeps playing at the level that they're playing right now, I think in 20 years, maybe 25. I mean, Michigan's going to have, there's going to be some leeway, some back and forth there, but I think in 25 years or so, you might see Ohio State on top of that rivalry.
Yeah, I would say that this game right here, and JJ, you probably know this better than we do. You think this game is probably going to be one of the biggest deciding factors of whether or not the coach keeps his job?
For John Harbaugh, it shouldn't. He needs to win it at some point, obviously. But I think this
Oh, I'm sorry, I
kind
didn't
of
mean
goes.
this game, just like this game in general.
Oh
Like,
yes, absolutely. He
not
can't
winning the
keep,
rivalry is, yeah.
he can't keep losing it. I mean, at some point that's going to cost him his job because this is. I mean, between that and this is also what prevents him from his other, main objective, which is to win a Big Ten title. He doesn't
Yeah.
beat Ohio State. He's not winning a Big Ten title, even though that's not the case this year. In most years, they're kind of going for it for the Big Ten East title. It's either Ohio State, Michigan, or Ohio State, Penn State that usually decides it. This game is blocking him from his two biggest goals, and he's going to need to win it at some point. But at the same time, if you're a Michigan fan, who else are you going to get? Like, this is supposed to be your golden child to be your Michigan man. That's the term that everybody uses when they look for a head coach. But this is it. There's nobody. There's not supposed to be anybody after this. So
Yeah,
I don't know what they would do if they did fire him.
That's how we feel about Gundy. I mean, people are really frustrated about Bedlam and, frustrated that we haven't capitalized on some of our opportunities. But, honestly, who else? Who's a better cultural fit? Who's a better fit for the program than guys like Harbaugh and Gundy are for them?
I will admit, I could not see Oklahoma State without Gundy. Like, as a Sooner fan, I love and respect the hell out of Gundy. He's a man. Yeah. He's 40, right? He knows what he's doing.
52. He's like 52 now.
That's so long ago, guys. Oh my god.
It's almost as long as his mullet.
I mean, yeah, that's right. He trimmed it up in the offseason, but I will say the mullet has brought a lot of media attention, free media attention to the school. I would estimate in the millions of free publicity. So, if my coach needs to have a haircut to give us some kind of bump, then I'll take it. That's fine.
All right.
JJ,
well,
what's the good rival?
Yeah, what's going on with you, JJ? What you got for us?
So I got, one of the most classic rivalries in all of sports. This is the Army-Navy game. I think this is that's the rivalry. It's America, guys. You can't go against America. This is a game that's been played. It's been played 119 times, and up until recently, Army had held the series record. The Navy goes on that long run. Now Army's starting to crawl back with 3 straight. It's kind of been weird if you look back at the series. It's kind of been like a team goes on a run for a while and they're just better than the other team, and then it kind of flips. It looks like Navy might be taking that back this year though, but pretty even throughout history. 60 wins for Navy, 52 for Army, 7 ties in total. But you just every year everybody watches this game. One, because it's the only game that's on that week, but it's a great game. Everybody gets really excited to watch the triple option for 1 week, and it's really entertaining for a little while. And then you see people running in 3 yards and getting tackled every time. But just a couple years ago, that game they played in the snow might have been one of my favorite games I've ever watched.
That was a solid one, and the Army uniforms that year, the ice whites in the snow. That was a great one. I was actually on the field on the sidelines in 16 when Army broke the streak, and just as a neutral fan, like experiencing a game, probably easily top 2 neutral fan game day experiences ever. Just the passion and just the crowd, and then just seeing the guys after they broke that streak and won for the first time in like 15 years or something. It was pretty incredible. So yeah, it's a great pick.
Just really quickly, let me tell the writing staff, since JJ has taken all of our content for next week already and gotten it out there, that we're going to have to come up with something really quickly for next week's show. Thank you, JJ, for that. We appreciate it. Writing team is
championship game.
so in
2
love.
weeks, yeah, 2 weeks show.
2 weeks. Got 2 weeks, guys. 2 weeks.
Yeah,
That should be plenty of time for
We'll have
Jeff.
all the bowl games to pick.
There we go. All right, so let's move on to the Egg Bowl. All right, Ole Miss versus Mississippi State played their first game in 1901. That was so long ago that they weren't even called Ole Miss and Mississippi State back then. It was red and blue and the Aggies. They weren't even called what they're called today back then. That was so long ago, it's ridiculous. So, and here's the other ridiculous thing, okay? Since 1901, they have only missed 4 total years not playing each other. That is insane. That is insane. So they took a break for 3 years. They took a little bit of a break from 1911 to 1915, and then
World War I.
came back around, played from 1950 all the way to 1943. JJ, bonus points. Why did they not play a game in 1943?
I'm gonna guess World War II.
That is correct. JJ, bonus points. Bonus points for Penn State this week. JJ indeed has it right. 1943. Neither team had a team because of the draft in World War III and all that, or World War II rather. Yeah. So this game became a neutral site game in 1973 through 1990. The reason being, guys, there weren't enough seats at either school's facilities to hold all the people that wanted to go to it. So they had to move to another stadium. I believe it was the, I've got it right here. Mississippi Veterans Memorial Stadium is where they moved it to, which had basically double the capacity of both of their schools. So they could combine the sizes of both of their stadiums together. And that ended in 1990. They went back to the home and home series because, well, they could fit everyone in there then. Basically was what happened. Everyone had their upgrades. Their stadium capacity was much higher, so there was really no point in having it be a neutral game anymore. So they went back to the home and home series. And this is something, I was actually looking at this with OU and Nebraska as well. But I think these guys still have it. The first 25 games of this series between Ole Miss and Mississippi State has one of the largest deficits to be overcome by the current leader. So in the first 25 games of this series, it was 17-5 with Mississippi State leading. Nowadays, Ole Miss is leading this series, but we're going to get into that discussion here towards the end of this. But one of these things about rivalry games, guys, is that sometimes you can have a losing season, but if you beat your rival, you keep your team. If you're the head coach, if you beat your rival, that is enough that you get to keep your spot, right?
Yeah, for sure.
From 1901 until 2018, well, I guess until 2004, really, not a single coach, even with a losing season, that won this game was ever fired. The only one that's ever been fired after they've won this particular game was the current head coach at Duke. All right, that's David Cutcliffe, and he was fired in 2004. It's the only coach that's ever been fired from losing this game, or to have won this game and still be fired. Do you guys know why they call it the Egg Bowl? It's kind of a weird name for a bowl, for a football game. So
no, tell me.
So basically, to keep the story short, because it's kind of running long, I thought you guys would have a little bit longer of a thing going on with your schools, So yeah, I'm sitting here. I've written a novel.
To get in.
I've written a novel. But the story basically goes.
Ever thought to know about this,
right? Yeah. It's called research. I'm not normally a host. I'm a producer, so I was like, I've got to make up for not knowing what the hell I'm doing. with research. So
The enthusiasm's awesome.
the story goes, basically, Mississippi State had this huge 13-game lead on the series, hadn't lost in 13 years. Finally, Ole Miss wins it and basically went and destroyed the field, stormed the field, took down the goalposts, and the other guys didn't take that too well, and they weren't quite fond of all that, so they literally started beating the crap out of each other with chairs. Like, literally, the Mississippi State fans grabbed their chairs, ran to the field, and started beating the hell out of the Ole Miss guys. It was fantastic.
Mississippi was West Virginia before West Virginia was West Virginia.
It's true. It's true. So basically, both schools got together, and they were like, all right, so we're going to build a trophy with a ceremony so that people can't storm the field because they got to wait for the ceremony to finish. It'll give them time to cool down. And so that hasn't happened since. And back then, footballs, guys, they were shaped more like this. Right now, they're a little bit more angular. But back then, they were more shaped like an egg. So they put a football on top of a trophy. And now it looks like an egg, and that's why they call it the Egg Bowl, because they fight over a trophy that looks like an egg.
That story was a real roller coaster.
That was awesome.
It was. Don't worry, I have a much better story that you're going to particularly love when we talk about these next ones. But, guys, this year, I'm going to have to give it to Mississippi State winning this one. It's just Ole Miss is 3-8, and the teams they've beaten are nobody's. Arkansas, Southeastern Louisiana, New Mexico State. Like, who? And they've lost to basically everyone else. I mean, they lost to Cal. Who loses to Cal in the SEC?
Pretty rough.
Vandy, Auburn, Memphis, LSU. They've lost to everyone else, obviously, that they played. So Mississippi State, on the other hand, go ahead.
And they're playing for a bowl game in this one too. They're going to be extra motivated, I think. I don't think any of us are going to argue that Mississippi State's going to be able to take care of business, but it's a rivalry game, so you never know.
It's true. Anything can happen in a rivalry game. Trust me. There's a quote by Charlie Strong. He was asked a question after losing 2 seasons. He was asked straight up, when are you going to beat Oklahoma? And he looked at the camera and he's like, sooner or later. And he did the whole weekend. And then he went on to beat us.
And then he won. Yeah,
the only game he won the whole season. He was like 11-1 or 1-11, and it was Oklahoma who went to the playoffs that year. Like, what the hell? Anyways.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Let's move. What's next?
Let's talk about our bad, the most lopsided ones in history.
Why don't you start, Caleb?
Do you want to?
I can't even venture a guess of which of these games you might think is the most lopsided.
Well, I mean, do you want like a quick death, or do you want to wait it out? I'll give you the option.
Maybe like half as long as the Egg Bowl.
Look, this one's gonna be really short, really sweet, and really simple. Let's go ahead and let's kill you quickly. All right, let's kill you quickly. Oklahoma versus Oklahoma State is, I'm pretty sure if we look at the stats, probably actually the most lopsided rivalry there is. I'm not even sure why we call it a rivalry, to be honest with you. It's kind of like, they wear orange and look kind of like Texas, so I guess we hate them because they certainly, don't provide anything, challenge or anything. I want to tell you guys a story, okay? The first game of this rivalry series, the first game was played in 1904 in Guthrie, Oklahoma. You ever been to Guthrie, Will?
Yeah.
It's a cool little place. Nice old
nice
town.
Yeah.
Well, this particular game is pretty much indicative of the entire rivalry between Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. During the very first game, Oklahoma State went to punt the ball. Okay? They go to punt the ball. The wind catches the ball and throws it behind Oklahoma State. All right? It hits the ground. It rolls into a creek. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State players...
Or a crick.
A crick. It rolled into the crick. So Oklahoma State players, they rush into this creek. They're trying to get this ball. The reason being...
There was no out of bounds. Yeah, there was no out of bounds.
There was no out of bounds. So if Oklahoma State recovers, it's a touchback. It's a simple touchback. All good. If OU recovers it in this crick, it's a touchdown. So they go into this creek. They're fighting vigorously. I mean, hand-to-hand combat going down in this creek. The refs can't see anything. They're underwater. Right? People are probably trying to drown each other. It's crazy. It's literally Bedlam in the creek. All right? It is Bedlam in the creek. But Oklahoma comes out on top, raises the... It's like what is the sword and the stone, right? Like the hand just comes out of the water. It just comes out, right? And it's holding the football. And he raises up, and it's a red helmet. Oklahoma has it. Touchdown, Oklahoma, giving them a final score of 75-0, Oklahoma. And I say it's indicative of the rivalry series because the all-time record for this game isn't that much better. 88-18-7. 88-18-7, Oklahoma. That's it. Show's over. I'm done. That was all of my energy right there. I'm tired. I'm old. I'm gassed. I need a break.
You know, OU fans love to talk about the football series like that's all Bedlam is. Truth be told, Bedlam is an all-sport rivalry in which OSU has won 6 of the last.
Abney, can I ask you a question? Do you watch wrestling, Abney? Do you watch wrestling, JJ?
He actually might.
I should, but I don't.
You don't. Nobody else does either, so this doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
He's probably very interested in
all that matters.
Oh my gosh.
I will give you that.
Here's my point though. You obviously, Caleb, you did. Did you happen to watch the Bedlam game last year? OSU lost by a point in a game with a missed field goal, a missed extra point, and a failed two-point conversion. Caleb, you really can't tell me you felt like you had control of that game at any point. And so it's this. Yes, the all-time rivalry series is lopsided, but every single game, every time we play, it is not like this massive 75-0 beatdown that you guys are used to. We're in it every game. And Bedlam actually last year was peak Bedlam where, you know, as an Oklahoma State fan, you feel like, oh, yes, this is it. We're going to get it. All we need is this one. Damn it, we lost again. And so it's quite the tease, and we'll talk about this more in Shots and Chasers later for this week. And if you want to use your segment to shit on OSU during Bedlam week, that's fine. But here's a real battle. This rivalry might be a little bit worse and maybe a little bit more topical. Notre Dame and Navy. The beatdown continued 2 weeks ago as we watched Notre Dame win 52-20 and take a 77-13 lead in the series. Navy, in the history of this series, has never won more than 2 games in a row. And we're not talking about a very short series. You know, we're played 82 games at this point. And the worst part about it all, Navy has lost every single game from 1964 to 2007. So, you know, every year between, 43, like almost 50, somebody help me out, math. Math is hard. Don't do math in public. 43 games in a row that Navy lost to Notre Dame. And yet they still play it every year, and they still, you know, it's still a big rivalry game. That's probably, in my opinion, the worst one out there right now.
Yeah, that one, I think we brought that up last week when it was on when we had it on we talked about it on the show briefly. Navy doesn't get to play at home. Whenever it's supposed to be at Notre Dame gets the home game because, you know, they're Notre Dame. But then when it's supposed to be at Navy, they just go around to random neutral sites and play around the country. Like next year they're going to Ireland to play the game. Why can't they just play one in Annapolis? I don't know. But I think
it's not a bad stadium out there.
It's as lopsided as you're saying.
To be fair, probably the money's awesome that they get to go to those neutral site games. So
yeah, that's probably fair as well. And you know, it may be one of those deals like with the Mississippi thing you're talking about. There may just not be enough space, or the logistics of getting to Annapolis is pretty brutal. Trying to fly into Baltimore, D.C., and then drive another hour and a half, 2 hours out to Annapolis is pretty rough. So you figure Notre Dame's going to travel well for that, and they're just trying to make it as simple as possible. So I don't know. It's an ugly series. I would argue uglier. At least we never lost 43 in a row, and so I can hang my hat on that.
All right.
Who's your bad rivalry?
So my bad rivalry, it doesn't have the same terrible win-loss record that both of your rivalries that you brought up has. It's still pretty bad though. It's the Apple Cup, Washington State.
Yeah.
They now Washington State is a little bit more respectable. Like I said, they've won 32 times out of just over 100 meetings. They've met. They've met 111 times. They've won 32 times. So Washington's won 73 times. So it's still pretty lopsided.
Yeah.
The bigger thing with this that makes it very lopsided is Washington State, within those 32 wins, they've never gone on a prolonged run of victories.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about other teams where, you get to say, oh yeah, like our class of seniors won 4 years in a row. The most that Washington State has ever won in a row against Washington is 2. Their longest win streak is 2 games. They've done it a couple different times, but their longest win streak is 2 games, whereas Washington has had multiple multi-game win streaks. Their longest is 8. They're on a 6-game win streak right now. And kind of similar to Oklahoma State, there's been some pretty depressing losses for Washington State. Years where they're supposed to be better than Washington.
Yeah.
Specifically the last 2 years, they don't even come close to getting it done. Last year it just happened to snow and it completely messes up Washington State's game plan. Just like, the heavens just hate Pullman, and they just couldn't let them get to the Pac-12 title game over Washington last year. So I think that's one of another tortured rivalry for Washington State fans.
For sure.
And that's an interesting one too, because you do have to go back. If you look historically at a lot of these rivalries, wins are very streaky, right? You'll have a team that wins 4 or 5 in a row, and then it'll switch in 4 or 5 in a row. Like, there's a lot of streakiness to those wins and losses. So it's interesting that Washington State's only ever won 2 in a row. That's actually kind of crazy. I would have expected Washington to be, I don't know. It's the Pac-12, who, whatever.
Yeah, who knows?
It's all crazy, self-devouring. That whole thing. That would have been a great segue to the Pac-12 seconds. Why didn't we do this one last?
I think we've got something special in store for the Pac-12 seconds. So let's talk about the Dead Bowl game, or the Dead rivalry.
Yes, Will, please start me out on these dead rivalries here.
So this year I went to games at both College Station and Austin, and just talking to the fans out there and some people from the administration. There's a lot of people that want to see A&M and Texas play each other, and I think that's completely reasonable. These schools are 2 hours apart. You've got a lot of A&M, a lot of Aggies, a lot of Longhorns that intermingle day in and day out, and it's Texas, so college football is part of the culture here. And so, how many people would pay to watch that bowl game? They would pack that stadium out, regardless of where it was, as long as it wasn't at Jerry World. And where no matter what the records would be, they would sell that game out every year, and it would be a big deal.
Yeah.
Or even think about if they just brought it back for a bowl game, because there are some great SEC Big 12 bowl games that they could do it in. Here's the problem though. Neither school, neither athletic director wants to be the one to accept that bowl bid. It'll never happen. Here's why. If you are the athletic director who accepts that bowl game and then you lose, the risk of being the one who's going to lose a game that you don't know you're going to play again, especially a rivalry game with that much on the line, I think is just far too high. It's in nobody's interest to be the team that loses that game, and you never know when you're going to get another chance to play it again. So unless they get a long-term deal on the books, I don't think we're going to see this one coming back for a long time.
Yeah, could you imagine this year if Texas wins this week and they're both 7-5? That could be like the most high-profile 7-5 versus 7-5 bowl game in the history of college football.
Not only would you have Texas and A&M's pride on the line, you would have Big 12 and SEC pride on the line.
Big time.
Because in my opinion, that's like living in Shreveport. There's obviously it's this LSU country, right? But there's also this sort of meeting point where you're at the edge of the Big 12 and the edge of the SEC, right? You got Arkansas and Louisiana, and you got Texas and Oklahoma. Yeah. And so that is a huge thing. to me personally, and I'm totally not at all biased at all in any way, shape, or form, I think, I'm not saying every year, but this year in particular, I think overall the Big 12 is a much better conference than the SEC. I think you put us against the SEC, because you put a middle tier Texas versus number 1 LSU in the SEC, and Texas held their own, right? Maybe we get to see LSU Oklahoma. Granted, I don't know, like Oklahoma's on a backwards trend this year. I don't know what the hell's going on there. I'm not a fool. I may like my team, but I'm not, delusional. We'll probably turn over the game just like Jalen turns over the ball. But the point is, I think overall, quality, the Big 12 is better than the SEC. And if this year in particular they put Texas and Texas A&M in there and Texas wins,
I would argue against that point. If you look at who we've got in the Big 12 at like that 3, 4, 5, 6 range, you're looking at Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Texas, maybe Kansas State up there. And then you look at who's 3, 4, 5 in the SEC, and you're looking at Auburn, Florida, Alabama this year because they're not going to win the West. I don't think I don't know if the Big 12 wins more than one of those games.
And
I think it depends on the matchup.
Part of the problem too is SEC is 14 teams. You can just, unless you randomize all 14 teams, the SEC would just lop off the bottom 4 teams. So you don't see Arkansas, Vandy,
true, and that's true.
Ole Miss.
Right. But I think if you put one versus 1, 2 versus 2, 3 versus 3 in the overall standings,
I don't know.
I think the Big 12 holds their own. I'm not saying they win it outright because I think you're right. The mid tier of SEC is a little better than the mid tier of the Big 12, but I think the bottom tier of the Big 12 is far superior to the bottom tier of the SEC. Now they do have the luxury that they get to cut them off, right? You can't put Kansas versus Arkansas, which I would put money on Kansas beating the cream out of Arkansas.
I would like Kansas in that game. Yeah.
But if they do get to cut off, or maybe they get to pick, I don't know, however you would do it. If you would just cut off the bottom 4 teams, I would set the over/under at probably 7.5 wins for SEC.
7.5. I don't know. I think
maybe
I think we hold our own. I think the Big 12 has more parity than the SEC does. I think
that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to beat the SEC though. Just because there's more parity, the SEC is definitely more top heavy.
So here's the thing. If we let's match it up really quickly. Oklahoma, LSU, they're very similar teams, right?
Okay.
They're very similar teams. That's a toss-up to me. That's a toss-up.
Great game.
50-50.
I think LSU wins that game, though.
I'm at 50-50. I think LSU could win the game. I think Oklahoma could win the game.
Are we talking about first half at Baylor, Oklahoma, or second half at Baylor, Oklahoma?
Let's go second half Baylor, Oklahoma. Let's go Oklahoma when Jalen remembered how to hold a football.
If Oklahoma can actually put together 2 halves of football, then yes. But I haven't seen them do that in multiple weeks now.
We haven't seen that happen in a year. We look at the Alabama game. Look at the Alabama game last year in the playoffs, where in the first half we shit the bed. The second half we beat them by 17 points. So we didn't win the game, but in the game of halves, we beat the hell out of Alabama last year.
Yeah, this is a fun exercise. Let's keep working on the last.
Yeah, sorry. Okay.
Good call. Yeah.
Baylor, Georgia, or Baylor, Alabama? Which one do you want?
I would put Baylor, Georgia, and I think Baylor beats Georgia. I truly believe Baylor beats Georgia.
Ooh.
I think that would be another close game, another toss-up game, but
it's another game of good defenses, suspect offense.
I would give the nod of that game to Baylor. I think Baylor.
Now let's
would
look at number
more.
3. So right now, number 3 is either Oklahoma State or Iowa State, I think, in the standings. And you're looking at Alabama.
I think Bama beats either one. I think Bama beats both.
I would probably agree.
And then if you would probably say Florida next, and I think they would beat either one.
I don't. I think both Oklahoma State and Iowa State could beat Florida.
I don't think Iowa State
could, yes, but would they? I don't think so.
I really do. I really think that they would. I think watching I think Iowa State. If I were to put money on it, I would hope that Oklahoma State was in there. I think Oklahoma State has a much better shot at beating Florida. I think it's more 50-50 if it's Iowa State,
Yeah.
but I think Iowa State could pull it off.
I don't know about Iowa State. I would like our chances against Florida. I would like to play Florida. That'd be a fun game. Sorry. So next you've got Texas Auburn probably.
I think that's another toss-up.
No, I think Texas is bad right now.
I think
they have
right now,
turned
yes.
into a
True.
bad team.
If you played the Texas from the LSU
You're right,
when
yeah.
they had some healthy players,
Yeah.
True.
then yes, I might take.
Well,
Texas.
but that's
But
what
right
you've
now,
got. You've got to think about, if they are we playing this game today, or are we playing at a bowl game in 3 weeks, right?
True.
So that's kind of when you have time to prepare, time for people to get healthy, and Texas can bring those players back. I think Texas has a really good shot at beating Auburn.
Yeah, that's a lot of ifs. So I think if they play today, I think Auburn wipes.
I would agree. If they played right now, today or tomorrow, Auburn wins that game handedly. I think if Texas has the players they had at the beginning that are healthy, with time to prepare, I think Tom Herman puts together a solid game plan and takes down Auburn.
So then you're looking at, Kansas State, and then who would be the next best SEC team?
That's a good point. This is kind of where it drops off.
Yeah, this is kind of where it drops off to the bottom tier. And again, I think that bottom tier of the Big 12 is slightly better than the middle to bottom tier of the SEC.
And that's fair. But honestly, like from my perspective, like I'm an outside Big 12 SEC, but I watch a lot of every game because that's just what I do on the weekend. I would probably pick, if I had to pick each game, I'd pick the SEC team in pretty much almost all those games from the top, like the top heavy SEC teams.
All the way down?
I would pretty much all the way down. I'm not saying that there wouldn't be one or two in there that I think a Big 12 team would win, but I think that a lot of those games would be the SEC's wins. And then, yeah, you're right. You might get TCU beating Kentucky, or you might get,
Kansas State could
South
beat.
Carolina.
I think Kansas State could beat
Tennessee.
Scar. I think they could beat Kentucky. I think they could
Mississippi
beat.
State.
Yeah, they beat Mississippi State. Yeah.
But again,
I think it's really funny at the
huge
beginning of the
drop-off.
season, we were all talking about how great it was going to be to watch OU and Bama in the playoffs, and here we are, and we're going to get them in the Sugar Bowl instead. So,
Maybe. That depends on Oregon.
True.
So that's pretty cool. You know what I love about Thanksgiving weekend, though, is we get football on Friday. So we got 2 days of football this week, and so we did special shots and chasers just for the Friday games. So you guys want to get into those?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's get into it. So this is going to be the shots and chasers for Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern. We've got Virginia Tech, Virginia for our shot. And this one, pretty much all of these are going to be rivalries, more or less. Yeah. It is rivalry week. I personally, I'm more of an SEC Big 12. I mean, that's the part of the country I live in. I'm not even sure which one of these teams would win because I don't think I've watched a single game from Virginia Tech or Virginia.
Well, here's what's really cool is this game decides who gets to go get beaten by Clemson next week. So really, I don't think either team is going to lose, but whoever loses this game is going to get a nice, couple weeks off before they go play their bowl game. And so, there's a lot of
this is important too because this is for even though neither one of these teams may end up ranked if they get demolished by Clemson. This is for a berth in the Orange Bowl, too.
True.
So this is for a New Year's 6 bowl game.
So not only do they get to lose to Clemson, they get to lose to whoever they play in the Orange Bowl.
Yes. Hey, but they're going to get that. But you get to hang the banner that
I hope it's Virginia Tech so that orange can be their least favorite color, too. Virginia, Clemson, Orange Bowl.
That would be a great way to send out Bud Foster in his last game to get into the New Year's 6 game. I have been singing Bryce Perkins' praises early on. He hasn't really done much in the latter part of the year. I think Virginia has definitely been a letdown of sorts. So I think I like Virginia Tech to win this game, especially after what they did last week, just completely blanking Georgia Tech. Or who did they play last week? They shut them out. I remember that.
They played Pitt.
Yeah,
a pretty solid Pitt team.
Yeah. So I like Virginia Tech in this one.
All right. This was almost my dead rivalry because of how dominant Virginia Tech has been recently, and really since. And I almost got taken aback by, this is actually not that lopsided. It's 58-37 in the rivalry series. The majority of Virginia's wins come before 1960. Since 1960, it has pretty much been thoroughly dominated by Virginia Tech. And now, of course, they're on that 15-game win streak that's been going on since 2004. And you actually go back to 1999. So this would be the 20th, like in their last 20 games, including this, like not including this one, they'd be 18-1 in their last 19.
Wow, that's crazy.
So it's been a thorough domination by Virginia Tech recently. But Virginia has to win this one because of coastal chaos. It's going to happen. You have 7 different teams in 7 years making the ACC Championship Game since they started since they went to this division format. You'll have all 7 teams making it one time.
Wow.
And then we'll just start over. They'll start over next year. They'll do it again for another 7 years.
That having heard that, I think I want to change it. I would like to see Virginia win this game.
Nah, I don't know much about either of these teams, but I'm going Virginia Tech for the win because there's a lot of orange on that logo right there, and
Virginia Tech should win. They've been the better team the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Speaking of dirty orange teams, on our chaser this week, we have Texas Tech versus Tejas, or Sexat, whichever one you want to go with. I've seen people do it both ways. Just waving my children out of the room.
They did Texas their own media guide a couple of years ago. I always like to bring that one up.
Yeah.
Misspelled Texas inside their media guide on every page. It was great. I said a couple of minutes ago, I think that Texas is definitely backsliding. I don't know if Texas Tech has enough to compensate for that, but if depending on what Tech team showed up, they beat us pretty handily this year in Lubbock, and so I think they definitely have it in them. But this Texas team they just are playing flat and just kind of have lost a lot of life, and so I'm really curious to see how they respond to kind of some of the adversity they've been going through.
Yeah,
I think they really need this.
Do you guys remember at the beginning of the year when people were talking about Sam Ehlinger possibly being a Heisman candidate?
We were talking about it on this show.
Yeah, we were talking about it.
I remember. I was sitting in this chair. You guys were doing your show, and I was just... That's it. I remember it fondly.
Just looking into his glass ball.
Yeah.
Going,
No, I agree.
Texas
is on the slide downwards. Of course, anything Oklahoma does, Texas has to do better. So they're sliding down further and faster. I don't know if Texas Tech, again, I agree with you. I don't know if Texas Tech has the capability to squeak it out, but I think it'll be a lot closer than it would have been at the beginning of the season. If they had played this game week 3 or week 4, I think Texas comes out on top easily.
Yeah. I think Texas has kind of fallen in victim because they were another team kind of like, not in the same way, but like Nebraska, they had a ton of preseason hype, just this over-the-top preseason hype because of their Sugar Bowl win over Georgia last year, and now they had all this hype, and then they lose 2 games so early, and they get all these injuries, and it's kind of like, well, we're not going to we're already missed our expectations for the season.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty deflating for some college kids, and for a coach, I'm not too high on Tom Herman as like a coach and like a leader of men type coach. So I don't see him being able to rally these guys, and he hasn't been able to do that. So I think Texas still wins. The talent disparity is still huge in this game, and it's not in Lubbock. If it was in Lubbock, it might be a different story.
True, yeah. All right, what are you thinking on this one, Will? Who's winning? You said Texas?
I'll take Tech, actually.
Tech?
I have to look at the spread, but if I'll probably, whatever it is, I'll take the point.
Wow. Big bets. I got to go with Texas, but I think it could be a squeaker.
All right, what's next?
All right, we got our 3 p.m. games for Friday, as notated at the top.
Basically, the American Conference Championship game right here.
Yeah.
Kind of a shame that we have to watch it. We've been on the American all season, and so I'm excited to see a good game.
Yes.
especially this late. It is kind of unfortunate that they're going to have to go out and play this game, and it's not going to be for a conference championship game. I think if Cincy wins, Navy kind of backdoors their way into the championship game, which kind of unfortunate for Memphis, but that's just kind of the way the scheduling goes sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think Cincinnati, they've really been pulling out a lot of games late. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see Memphis go ahead and take care of business and then have to turn around and play them again in next week, which just kind of anytime you have to play the same team over again, that's my biggest gripe with the Big 12 is beating the same team twice is insanely challenging.
It is.
Having someone do it 2 weeks in a row is going to be really unique. I think that's going to make that if Memphis wins this game, I think that makes the American Conference Championship game immediately a must-watch, just to kind of see how it shakes out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Cincinnati plays it, because they could kind of play it a little more conservatively, knowing that they don't have a lot on the line here. I mean, they do have to try to win this game to try to get the New Year's Six Bowl locked up, because Boise State is kind of right behind them.
Sure.
But if Cincinnati, Memphis still hasn't clinched the American West. They need to win this game to clinch it, because Navy is still 6-1 in the conference. If Navy wins this week and Memphis can't find a way to pull it out, then Navy is going to be the one playing in the conference title
Who
game.
is Navy playing this week?
I believe they're playing. I want to say they're playing. No, they're not playing Tulsa. I have to look it up.
Tulane, maybe.
Might be Tulane.
Because
I think we circled that game as that could have been potentially.
That's right. Yeah, that was like a last minute swap.
No, they played Houston. Sorry,
Houston. Houston. Yeah.
Ooh, yes, which should be a win for them.
Yeah.
Because Houston's kind of thrown the season away. So Memphis is kind of in like a lose-lose situation where if they get Cincinnati's best and they lose, they're out. Or if they get Cincinnati's not so best, they still have to turn around and play them again at home. They would at least get to play them at home again, but they got to turn around and play them again, where they have to kind of empty the bag a little bit to make sure that they get to the conference title game.
Yep.
Okay.
No, I would love to see Memphis go ahead and take care of business, just because I'm just so fascinated with this idea that of the back-to-back rematch, which is kind of what the Big 12 has been in danger of having Bedlam beat at the last game of the season. So you saw they moved that game to it was like mid-November next year. So Bedlam's not going to be the last game next year. I think that's really interesting too.
I think that's BS.
Yeah,
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree.
All right, 3 p.m. the chaser there, Iowa and Nebraska. Nebraska needs this game for a bowl game, and that actually leads us into our next segment, talking about these 5 and 6 teams that are looking for that last win just to get them over the hump. But Iowa, they just knocked off Minnesota, and so looking pretty solid. But this game is in Lincoln, so I don't know, JJ. You're a resident Big Ten expert. What do you think on this one?
I think Iowa has kind of struggled playing lesser opponents. They've kind of played down to their opponents a lot this year. You look at the Purdue game was actually really close, and that was when Purdue was really banged up. That was only like a 6-point win for them, I believe. They let Northwestern hang around for a while. Illinois is better this year, but they still let them hang around way longer than they should have. Nebraska kind of got some things going last week, albeit it was against Maryland, but they got some things going offensively for the first time in a while. Still think Iowa should win, but it's going to be closer than it should be, just because Iowa they can't play their best game against a bad team for whatever reason. Although they might get up for it because it's a rivalry game. But one thing to mention, Nebraska is one of the worst teams against the spread this year. They are 1-9 against the spread, and Iowa is favored by 5.5.
Okay, all right. So still take it, give up the points. Then is it kind of what it's looking like?
Yes.
Oof. I'm one of the guys, I guess, that wanted Nebraska to be good. I want Scott Frost to go home and have success. He just hasn't done it. And I think this game right here is going to it's absolutely going to set the tone. Like, this is so important for his first year, or to be able to get to a bowl game and get those extra bowl practices and just set the tone for the off season. If they can't win this game, I'm not going to say Scott Frost is in trouble because I don't think he is, but I think that's going to continue to set that program back.
He needs time still. He took over a very, very bad Nebraska program, the worst that it has been in a very long time. But the expectations that were put on that program this year were way too high. And it could be one of those situations where next year they come out and they look like a totally different team, just because it was just a year early potentially for them. Like all this hype this year might have just been 1 year too early. Especially if Adrian Martinez comes back healthy and they get a little bit more talent from their recruiting classes. They're going to get there under Scott Frost. I really do. He's a good. I think they're going to get there. He's a very good coach. It's going to take more than. It's not going to be one of those quick turnarounds where he just comes in and all of a sudden Nebraska's great again. It's going to take a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
So talking about those.
I don't have anything about
those teams that are. Then talking about those teams that are 5 and 6, we have 78 bowl slots this year, so we need 78 bowl eligible teams. And right now we've got 73. Last night Ohio clinched their spot. Of the, I guess there are like 13 or so teams that are still eligible, and of those, I guess 12. So 12 teams are still eligible, and of those 12, 5 of them are favorites. So that would get us to 78. So we got TCU, Liberty, Michigan State, North Carolina, and Mississippi State. So I guess my question to you guys is, of those 5, do we think all 5 are going to win? And if not, then are we going to have to go to the APR and have some 5 and 7 bowl games this year?
Well, here's my thought on this: is that it's rivalry week, and especially in the Big 12 rivalry week, anything can happen. In the SEC, anything can happen. Auburn's winning the Iron Bowl when Alabama was at the top of its game, right?
Yeah.
Countless times rival opponents have just completely squandered, the better team's season by just wanting it more, having more heart. I think one of the big things in college football is, sometimes kids get a big head, and they think they're playing a lower tier team. They don't put their all into it. Well, that lower tier team is like, this is our rival. This is the game of our year. This is our bowl game, right? This is it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think all 5 win.
I don't think so either.
I don't think all 5 win. I think at least 2 drop, and then we're gonna have to go find some of those other teams that are out there that could become bowl eligible.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why, not just because schools hate each other, that rivalry week is one of the best weeks of the season for college football. Mm-hmm. It's because it's when some of the most chaos happens.
For sure.
And it's something where, especially now, it can directly affect the playoff picture.
Oh yeah.
Like Auburn struck out against their 3 out of their 4 big opponents this year. But if they beat Alabama, they can completely knock them out of the playoff picture.
Yep.
Well, I mean, that's if you subscribe to the idea that Alabama's even a possible contender, but
they still need some chaos.
They need some help, but they're still.
But they're not out of it by any means. There's a reason the committee's keeping them at 5, but that's another discussion for another time. And just in general, like you said, there's teams that they're focused on winning a bowl game, but there's teams like Ole Miss may have been focusing on Mississippi State for weeks because they knew this was going to be their bowl game. And Mississippi State's still trying to find a way to get into a bowl game. Ole Miss isn't focused on that. They're focused on getting a win. I think that NC State, that could be the reason why they lost to Georgia Tech last week. Looking ahead to North Carolina, knowing that that's their bowl game this year. Yeah. I would be surprised if we don't get to 6 wins. So I think like all the teams getting to 6 wins, I think we will. But it's not going to be all the favorites. You might have some of those teams that aren't favored.
I think we get to 78, but I don't think it's the ones we think it'll be.
Yes.
So.
Oh yeah.
I can agree with that 100%. 100%.
Yeah, I'm excited for that just to kind of see how it all shakes out. But I'm even more excited for what we've got on. Caleb, why don't we talk about Saturday's shots and chasers?
All right, Saturday at noon Eastern Standard Time, we've got Ohio State versus Michigan as the shot. This game is, again, we're talking rivalry week here. Anything can happen. I actually don't think Michigan has a shot at all at beating Ohio State. I don't think Michigan has the slightest. I think Kansas has a better shot of beating Oklahoma than Michigan has of beating Ohio State.
Hey, you say that Kansas hung in there pretty tough. I don't think there are enough pleated khakis in the entire state of Michigan. But I've been wrong before, and I will say Michigan is the quietest top 10 team we have seen this season. Somehow have gotten back. I know we should be focusing on the playoff rankings, but for the sake of editorializing this game, a top 10 team that we wrote off super early and have done nothing but win since September. So I'm really interested. I think Ohio State is playing world beaters right now. I don't see Michigan with a shot at this game, but I will also say that Penn State played Ohio State a lot closer than people thought too. So maybe they were able to expose just enough that they can game plan against, and you never know because it is that rivalry.
So
game.
Really quickly, you said something that kind of caught my attention there. You said since September, Michigan. We wrote Michigan off in September, right?
Yeah.
That's what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was something else I think we wrote off in September. I want to sneak it in here really quickly, all right? Because there was one whole conference that couldn't make it to the month of October, all right? Which brings us to our Pac-12 seconds. That is correct.
Ooh.
The conference, or how the Pac-12 died before October. These are the dates that every single team in the Pac-12 lost their first game. Notice that none of them start in the number 10. Not a single one starts in the number 10. The Pac-12 was out of it before October. Yeah. Anyways, carry on.
Probably the best Pac-12 seconds of the year. Yeah, no, that's solid. I mean, you look at Michigan. I'd love to see them kind of pull this off, but I think Ohio State's too good. I think they're gonna roll it.
So, for me, like, I just watched Penn State play Ohio State, and it was a little bit closer than I was actually expecting. We definitely got some turnover luck. We had to force those turnovers. Some of those strips that Lamont Wade had, and Micah Parsons one fumble. That was a grown man strip that he had on one of those fumbles. He just ripped it right out of the one guy's hand. But 4 fumbles or 3 recovered for us. That's not going to happen for Michigan. I mean, Ohio State will get that cleaned up. The weather's not going to be the same as it was for the Penn State game, so they're not going to have that benefit. Because other than that, we were getting dominated. Like, we were getting thoroughly dominated. Other than that, and our backup quarterback going in actually helped us because it threw off their defensive game plan a little bit. Because they were ready for Sean Clifford, and they were ready for KJ Hamler. I mean, KJ Hamler was pretty much silent throughout that whole game, and he's been explosive all year. I think Ohio State's going to be ready for this game. I do think Michigan is being a little bit disrespected. I do think they have a chance. I think they have more of a chance than even you guys are saying because, like you guys said, they're playing significantly better football pretty much since the second half of the Penn State game on. They've been a pretty solid football team.
So they're 9-point dogs. Would you take Michigan in the 9 points?
I want to, but I think Ohio State's going to come out angry because of how poorly they played in the second half against Penn State. Michigan's offense also usually relies on the run. Ohio State, you're not going to run on their defensive line. It's really going to rely on Shea Patterson, who I said it at the beginning of the year. Josh Gaddis was going to make Michigan better on offense, and it took a while. But that spread offense is starting to click a little bit, but I don't think it's there where it needs to beat this Ohio State team or even keep it that close against this Ohio State team. Maybe next year, right, Michigan fans? I mean, isn't that always the mantra?
I think it'll be the same story. Michigan will lose.
I think so too.
All right, so
And
that brings us to the chaser, right? The chaser's going to be
Yeah.
South Carolina versus Clemson.
South Carolina's got got a little bit of giant beater on, but this is a 27.5 point game via the spread. I don't think I would still take Clemson and give up the points.
Well, see, I don't know, to be honest with you, because this is the first time Clemson's played a football team this season, right? South Carolina took it to Georgia. If they can play Clemson like they played Georgia, honestly, guys, I get it. Clemson's undefeated. They deserve that number 3 spot. They're undefeated. All right, they've won 12 games, whatever. But I'm on that train. They haven't played anybody worth playing, and I think finally we're gonna see someone who might be able to finally test Clemson. I don't think anyone else going into any game had a shot of testing Clemson. That's just me. Look, I'm not you guys, okay? I'm not stats and lines and all that stuff. I like football. I like watching football, okay? And when it comes to the football, all right, I think Scar's the best team Clemson faces this year. That's an honest to God truth.
Yeah, the best team. Let's look at their other wins. Vandy at home, Kentucky at home, and Charleston Southern at home. Yeah, if I was gonna pick one team that I would put above the rest, that's the one that's it's not a great. This is not a good football team by any means. That maybe I doubt they catch lightning in a bottle again. But this is a team that lost by 20 to Tennessee. And lost to App State. So, I don't know if I'm feeling the upset at all here.
Yeah, no, I'm not feeling the upset. I'm not feeling a challenge either from South Carolina. South Carolina is severely injured right now. I remember going through the pregame threads on the subreddit, and their injury list is just incredibly long. So they're not the same team that played Georgia. And on top of that Georgia game, I kind of said it. Going back way back when that game happened, I said that Georgia beat themselves more than South Carolina actually won that game. Jake Fromm played terribly in that game, and it wasn't even like one of the plays. South Carolina's defender made a great break on the ball, but for the most part, Fromm just could not move the ball. Like, he could not consistently move the ball and not turn the ball over. I don't think Trevor Lawrence has that problem. I don't think. I think Clemson is being slept on hard because of their schedule, because no one really knows what they are, and because they had that North Carolina loss.
All you can do is play your games, right? They're in a Power
and they had
5
that one
conference.
scare against North Carolina.
Yep.
This
is not an undefeated Boise State or UCF that we're debating. Like, they've played a Power 5 schedule. It's not their fault that all the teams in their conference are down.
That's true. I look at it as you just can't judge Clemson enough, and I'm more excited to be able to look at this game and see a little more of Clemson to see how they're going to match up in the playoffs that they are inevitably going to get to. I mean, don't get me wrong. I may want my Christmas miracle, all right, in November, okay, and want South Carolina to beat the dog crap out of Clemson over here just to shut everybody up. But realistically, Clemson's probably going to win this game, right?
Yeah.
Clemson's definitely going to make it to the playoffs if they win this game. I want to see maybe what Clemson's made of and how they may be able to compete with an Ohio State or an LSU.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do think though, Clemson does need to go 13-0. Like, their schedule is rough. Like, if they do drop to either South Carolina and then either Virginia or Virginia Tech, I don't think they should be in the playoff, regardless of whether or not they might be the most talented team in the country. Their toughest test they would have lost.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree with that.
That they would need to be out.
And not only that, but it was an open book test.
Oh, yeah.
That's the equivalent. It was multiple choice and open book.
What's 3 o'clock out for us, Caleb?
All right, so on the 3 o'clock for the shot, we've got Wisconsin, Minnesota.
Yeah, game day.
I call this the Walmart game. The WM, the Walmart game or the waste management game, whichever. It's interchangeable, right? It's interchangeable.
Hey, call it what you want, but game day's headed up to Minnesota.
That's awesome.
I would love to see. I'm stoked to see them doing that. This little thing they've got going this year of going to first time game day sites. I always enjoy it whenever they do that.
Yeah.
I think this is the best time slot of the day. Hands down, both of these games are slam dunks. It's going to be really tough. I think both of them are going to be really close. But I am not a huge Tanner Morgan fan. But I will also say that Wisconsin's offense has really looked very beatable. Jonathan Taylor has been having solid games, but I don't think that that there's too much of a focal point on him right now. And I think Minnesota is going to be able to pull this upset at home.
No.
I mean, it's not even an upset at this point, really.
I think Wisconsin's favored.
Okay.
Which
So
is
yeah,
just
I like
surprising
Minnesota
to me.
at home. Yeah, I think people are continuing to sleep on Minnesota, and I've said from day one that they will win because they have an easy schedule. But I also think that when you beat up on opponents the way that they, whenever
Confidence goes up.
win games, your confidence goes up. The fans get into it, and it's going to make games like the Penn State one and this one are going to be the ones that the fans are really going to get up for because they have a shot to go to the Big Ten title game. So they're going to pack the stadium. They're going to be rowing their boats. They're going to be doing all the things that they got to do, and I think they pull it off and win this game.
Yeah, I think Minnesota wins, and I think it's mostly because I think Wisconsin's been figured out a little bit.
Mm.
They were really hot to start the year, and they played very well. They beat up on a struggling Michigan team, and then they hit that Illinois game. And I said it at the time that this is another situation where of a team beating themselves rather than the other team actually winning the game. Wisconsin outgained and outplayed Illinois, but ended up losing the game on a last-second field goal. But I said at the time, Illinois put out the blueprint on how to beat Wisconsin, and that's to make Jack Cohn beat you. Make him beat you. Put everybody up in the box and force that offensive coordinator to put Cohn in situations that he's not supposed to be in. And that's exactly what I think Minnesota will be able to do. They're going to load that box. They're going to force Jack Cohn to throw the ball against a secondary that is actually pretty good for Minnesota. So I think Wisconsin is going to have some trouble moving the ball. I think Minnesota ends up winning, and they kind of do it similarly to how they beat Penn State. They can get out to an early lead. That's going to be big-time problems for the Badgers.
I'm kind of the opposite side as you. I'm thinking Wisconsin knows that Illinois kind of exposed them. I think they've been working on that. I think they've been preparing for that sort of situation, and I think they're going to do it good. I think in this case, the whiskey's going to beat out the marijuana. But if the marijuana won, I'd feel better, sleep better, and be a whole lot less angry. But I'm going Wisconsin on this one. Wisconsin's going to squeak this one by.
All right. What do you think about the Iron Bowl? That's your territory down there, Caleb.
Yeah, well, I mean, I live in LSU country. And LSU's already played Bama, so pretty much everyone's been quiet now. Now that everyone down here is just worried about Ohio State. They think they're going to squeak by whoever number 4 is. Nobody cares if it's Oklahoma. Nobody cares if it's Utah or Alabama. They care if it's Alabama, but no one thinks it's Alabama. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
Like, all the analysts out there keep thinking it's Alabama. The voters keep saying Alabama. The CFP polls says Alabama, but no person watching the games think Alabama is going to be number 4. So I don't know what the deal is. I don't know where the disparity and all that is, but I don't know. That being said, there are quite a few Bama fans here. It's kind of like, Sooner fans and Texas fans. They're intermingled. There's a stretch of it there. The Bama fans down here, honestly, have kind of checked out for the season. I'm not going to lie to you.
Whoa.
Yeah, most of I work as an engineer in an asphalt company, and we have a lot of truck drivers that, a lot of those truck drivers are Bama fans. I don't know why. It seems like all the people that work in the office are LSU fans. All the drivers are Bama fans. But, yeah, I mean, we'll talk on the radios and whatnot, and they've checked out for the season. If they're not getting the shot at the national title, they don't care anymore. And that's unfortunate, to be honest with you. Unfortunate because I would be just as excited to be able to play Alabama in the Sugar Bowl as I would to be in the playoffs as an OU fan. So I think Alabama's players need to shut it up, shut it down in the ears, not listen to the radio, not listen to the media, not listen to the fans. They got to go in and they got to play their game. If they do that, I think they take over and win the game at Auburn.
Yeah, I think that Mac Jones only threw 12 passes in that last game, but he still has some. Went 10 of 12 and like 3 touchdowns. So had a pretty solid game. I think if Bama's going to do anything at all to help their chances, Mac Jones has got to have another great game, because I think the playoff committee is going to punish Alabama for the Tua injury, unless if Mac Jones doesn't look the part of national championship game winning quarterback, essentially, because what they're going to do is they're going to factor that into this best team algorithm that they're using, and that's going to hurt Alabama a lot if Mac Jones doesn't have a great game.
That was a very liberal use of the word algorithm that you
had there.
I don't know if you can call that an algorithm, but yeah, they do. They do need to win convincingly, and it needs to be because they threw the ball well. Like Mac Jones needs to find all those talented receivers. So it's not going to be a lack of talent on the outside. They have all the talent in the world on the outside. If Mac Jones can find these guys, show some kind of arm talent, and they can blow out an Auburn team, which they're going to have similar games between Georgia. They have similar games against LSU that they can use as an argument and say, hey, we crushed them with our backup quarterback. This team is just as good, if not better, than when we played LSU with an injured Tua. They're going to try to make that argument. I still don't think it works. I still think you can't deny a one-loss conference champion over a one-loss non-division champion. But they're going to make the argument for sure. If Mac Jones can put together a great game. They didn't, right? Because they've done it twice, but it's in situations where the other option was a 2-loss conference champion. It's never been a 1-loss conference champion. If OU or Baylor somehow loses this week and then Oregon beats Utah and you got 2-loss conference champions, then guess what? You're going to have to deal with either Alabama or Georgia as the 4th team in the playoff. But
I think it would nod Georgia over, but that's just me. I don't think there's many situations that Bama gets into the playoff this year.
No, there's not very many at all. It would have to be some really interesting chaos kind of come down. Speaking of the OU game, let's turn to our 7 o'clock. What do you say?
All right. So for the shot, we've got the best game of the day.
Yes.
It's going to be another 75-0 shutout, OU over OSU.
Oh, dear God.
No, I'm just kidding.
It'll
be 75 turnovers for OU versus 0 turnovers from OSU. If Jalen keeps playing the way that Jalen's been playing, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I am not confident. Okay? I'm not. I don't want to make it seem like I am. I am not. OSU could absolutely beat us if we keep playing the way that we have been playing these last couple of games. Okay?
Yeah,
We've got to be second half Baylor all the time.
Yeah, if you're going to put if Jalen's putting this team on his back and he loses the ball like he has, he's lost 5 fumbles this year, which is tied for 5th in the nation in fumbles lost. And you think about 4 of those fumbles that has been in the last 2 weeks.
3 of them in last week. 3. Last week was 3.
3 of his last 6 interceptions have been in the last 3 games, including a pick 6 in consecutive weeks. Plus, he doesn't even like cheese fries, apparently. So
what?
There's a clip. They were asking him about Eskimo Joe's, and he said he doesn't even like cheese fries. So
wow.
I don't know if this is the kind of leader I would want on my.
I bet he doesn't like Brahms either. I bet he doesn't even like Brahms.
Whoa. We would have to extradite him back to Alabama for that.
Yeah, we would.
JJ, if you ever make your way to Oklahoma and you see a Brahms, just pull in.
You gotta stop.
You got
to get the number one. Get the number 1 with the milkshake.
No, you don't need the number 1. You get the number 4, the 4 cheeseburger.
Oh, we got more rivalry.
The 4 cheeseburger. Well, yeah, because OU's used to the number 4. Well, that's how many Big 12 titles we've won in a row. Brahms going to have to come out with a 5-cheese hamburger here shortly. But that being said, all right, you got to get the number 4. with a milkshake, whatever flavor you want. There's 18,000 of them. You know, whatever. Mint chocolate chips, my personal favorite from Brahms. But, yeah, Brahms.
You know what else? You know what else is the number 4 is the number of bowl games OU has won this decade.
Ooh, oh.
And by the way, none of those have been playoff games. So I mean, no, we talked about turnovers. Oklahoma State is +8 in their last 4 games. I think if you're going to look at one stat at the end of the game and really paint the picture, it's going to be that turnover. If we can be +2 in this game, then I think we've got a real shot at winning. And you know, anything more than that, I think a lot of it'll be interesting because we've got Chuba, who's a known, we've got Drew Brown, who's kind of still an unknown, and you know, Tylen Wallace is still out, so it's really going to be a lot on Dylan Stoner. So offensively, there's a lot of question marks, but defensively, you know, I feel like Oklahoma State has done a lot in the second half of this season. That OU just there's, like we said before, they're kind of backsliding. So I'm really,
you say that,
really
but
excited.
Our defense has actually been what wins us football games these last couple weeks. It's been 100% defensive wins. We may have scored however many points we needed to score to come back on Baylor, but it was only because our defense consistently for that second half, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Right?
It definitely helped. It definitely helped though that the offense was holding the ball as much as it
True.
was.
And that was a game plan thing. That was a game plan thing. We didn't allow them many possessions, and when they did, it was 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. So
look,
when you can do
OU
that,
is 8th in the conference. OU is 8th in the conference in points per drive allowed. Oklahoma State is 3rd. So I mean, you can say that the defense has been winning games, but the bottom line is the defense is also giving up more points than almost anybody else in the conference. And last time I checked, if you give up more points than the other team, you typically tend to lose that game.
Well, but you also have to look at the offense. If you score more points than the other team, then you win the game. So, I mean, the argument is it goes both ways. I mean, our offense is number 1 in the conference. Your offense is, 4 or 5? But it doesn't matter. Oklahoma's whole thing is we have to score more points than the other team, and we have more weapons at our disposal, right? We've got Lamb. We've got A.D. Miller stepped up when Lamb was down. All of a sudden, A.D. Miller can catch a football. You know, when did that happen? I don't know. Nobody knows, but apparently it happened sometime, right? We've got all this young talent.
Back. Yeah. Hey, Sermon. No, who's y'all's running back this year?
Which one? We've got 18.
Jalen Hurts is your running back.
Yeah, we've got Jalen Hurts. We've got Sermon. We've got Pledger. We've got
Trey Sermon's he's a solid talent. I think he's
Brooks, Kennedy Brooks.
Back. Yeah, I just really like what our defense has been able to bring to the table lately, and I think that, like I said, the turnover battle is going to be the key stat when you look at this game. If Oklahoma State is +2, then I think we lose a close one or we pull one out at home.
I can absolutely see it. I mean, again, you know, to get into a more serious thing, OSU is not a bad team. In my opinion, they're not. They're not a bad team. I think trimming the mullet, he kind of trimmed also a little bit of the bad off the team, you know. So I mean, Oklahoma State is absolutely a respectable team, and they could totally. I could see it going either way. Now, I mean, just based on history and based on my knowledge, and based on you know the fact that one of these teams is playing for a playoff spot and one of them is playing for a bowl game appearance, right? I mean, OSU's already got their bowl game, but I mean, they're not making it to the playoffs if they win.
Sure.
What I'm getting at.
That's totally fair. Yeah,
I think all that combined, it gives Oklahoma the edge over also an ability edge, a skill level edge. I mean, OSU is a good team, but they don't have the caliber of player that Oklahoma has, and that's just historically the way it's been. That's why
the problem has always been the depth, right?
Yeah.
And so OU clearly has a lot more talent deep, and so that will, you know, like I said, we're going to have to create opportunities and really, really stop any momentum you guys have on those drives. So it's going to be what it boils down to. Just player for player, we're not going to be able to take you guys into the fourth quarter. So we've got to create those opportunities. So look for, like I said, +2 in the turnover column, or maybe like a weird special team thing that goes one way or the other. Like, those are going to be the kind of things that are really going to determine the winner.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma State's game plan needs to be to score really quick, really early. I think trick plays. I think going for it on a 4-3, right? I think anything you can do to score quickly and score often and early. I think that's the biggest key for OSU, because Oklahoma has already shown that even if you try and put them to be a one-dimensional offense, whether you want to make them pass or make them run, it doesn't matter. We can do both, and we do both very well. So there is no forcing us into one thing or another. You take away Jalen Hurts, we've still got Brooks, we've still got Pledger, we've still got Sermon, right? And Sermon will preach it all day long. You put us into where we have to throw. We've got Lamb, right? We've got Miller. We've got this really young roster of talent right now at the wide receiver position. We've got weapons you haven't even seen yet. And I truly believe that. We have wide receivers that have not been on the field that you haven't even seen yet that are probably better than some of our sophomores and juniors.
Poor JJ sitting over there. Yeah. I think he's over the Big 12.
You guys were very entertaining right there, just going back and forth. That was great. Just to chime in a little bit of some little betting nuggets here.
Sure.
As a lot of people love to bet on college football. The spread right now is 13.5 in favor of Oklahoma on the road.
That feels like free money to me. I don't know why.
And the reason is Oklahoma 4-6 against the spread this year, including 5 of their last 6 have all been one-score games. Oklahoma State is 8-2 against the spread this year. So just
I don't know. I think you
there.
bet the under on that, and you end up with a good payday. I think Oklahoma State keeps it close.
Yeah, for sure. I think they cover.
Yeah, I would be happy. I'm actually, I don't know why, but I got really excited about this game, and called my father-in-law and brother-in-law. We're all going to make the trek up to Stillwater for this. So I'm really excited about it. That'd be pretty awesome to get to see it. Equally as heartbreaking to have to watch it live in the cold at night. So that was the conversation we had. We're like, did we go up there and deal with the crowd and deal with the weather and deal with the night game just to lose? And we're like, but what if we won? Like, all right, let's go. We're going.
But what if we win? That's how I feel about OU if we get in the playoffs, right? Like, I don't want to go. Please don't put us in the playoffs, okay? We're not that good. We are lucky to be in the top 10 right now. And if you put us at number 4 and you put us against LSU, number 1, I'm going to have to hear it for the next year at work, all right? Number 2, we are not going to beat LSU. If it's Ohio State, guess what? We're not going to beat Ohio State. But in the back of my mind is like, but we could.
What if you did?
But we could.
What if you did?
You never know.
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this in the last few minutes of this broadcast right here, okay? I have a suit in my closet that's nothing but OU, schooner, everything. And if we win, it's
terrible.
Totally gaudy and terrible and looks like trash. But I am going to wear that shit so proudly that Monday morning following. Actually, I think the playoff or the championship game is on Monday, isn't it? But I think the other ones are on Sunday. The point is, the day after, when I go to work, I am walking straight into my boss's office, who I've told you about before, has an entire wall of LSU memorabilia, LSU everything. He shot the picture of Nick Saban that hangs on his national championship picture from 2007. He shot it. Not even took it outside and shot it. He shot it in the room. He just one day was like, "Bow!" Just over with. Done. Right? That's that kind of guy. I'm walking into his office and handing him my payroll numbers. So basically, this is how much money you owe me. I'm slamming it on his desk in full O-year ensemble, just as gaudy as I can possibly be. And so, if anyone out there has any leads on some jobs, I'm an engineer, asphalt technician level 3. All right, give me a call. I'll design your roads and your mixes. All right, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
This is not your job hunting service.
Yeah, seriously.
Somebody out there is going to be watching this, just waiting, just trying to they just want to hear about UNC, NC State, and they just sit through like 20 minutes of Bedlam talk. Uh, NC State's not going to a bowl game. UNC, if they win this game, there'll be a bowl game in year one for Mac Brown. Caleb, I'm sure you probably feel like Mac Brown could go to hell.
No,
I'm
Matt Brown's
probably
fine.
there.
He's fine.
Yeah, he's mad.
Yeah, he's fine. He's not at Texas anymore. He's fine.
I think this would be a cool win for UNC to be able to make a bowl game. They've had some really good games. They played Clemson right down to the wire and lost it on a failed 2-point conversion for the win, which is the right call in that situation. I think JJ, you alluded to this earlier. Just NC State knowing they're not going to the bowl game. This is their bowl game. This could be that in-state rivalry that saves Dave Doran's job.
Could be, yeah, it could be. And this is one of those spots where I think NC State very easily could have got caught looking ahead. You saw last week play Georgia Tech, who's probably the worst team in the ACC, and Georgia Tech jumped out to this huge lead against NC State. NC State kind of showed they were the better team, came back, ended up making it close. Could have 2-point conversion to tie it at the end. They didn't get it. So now, all your focus is turned to UNC because you're not going to a bowl game. But you could make sure that your rival is not going to get there. And like I alluded to earlier, if there are 5 and 7 teams, North Carolina is not going to be one of those academically proficient teams that's going to get into.
Surprisingly enough, UNC is not high on the APR.
Yeah,
I think Boston College is number 1 right now on APR. So if there's a slot open, Boston College is getting in at 5 and 7, which would be interesting. The 10 o'clock shots and chasers, they were bad. We looked at these games. There's just not any good games out there. I don't know. My recommendation is to DVR the Florida State game, or maybe the Iowa State Kansas State game, and just watch that instead. Or go to bed. Do something else. Go get some leftover turkey and just I don't know. What do you guys think?
Those leftover turkey sandwiches are the best sandwiches of the year.
For sure.
All right, let's take a look at the breakdown here for the shots and chases for Friday. It's going to be Virginia Tech, Virginia at 12 o'clock. Chase it down with a little bit of Texas Tech and Texas, even though we've already proven that Oklahoma is in fact the best team in Texas. So Cincinnati and Memphis at 3:30 is a good game to watch. I've got Cincy on that one for some reason. Call me a glutton, I don't know. For punishment, I want Cincy on that one. Iowa versus Nebraska as well to finish out your day on Friday. Get a little extra football days this week. And, of course, on Saturday for the shots, the primary games at 12 o'clock, Wiscy versus Minnesota, Ohio State versus Michigan, Oklahoma versus Oklahoma State. And for the chasers, chase that stuff down with a little bit of iron. Don't be iron deficient. Watch the Bama Auburn game. I'm gonna learn some English today. South Carolina versus Clemson and North Carolina versus North Carolina State. Wrapping up your football Saturday.
It's gonna be a good one.
It is. Today we learned what a 2-hour show of From the Stands would be like.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure my wife is fuming in the other room.
Oh, mine probably is too. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure I've already heard her yell 2 or 3 times. So, yeah. Fortunately, Thanksgiving is tomorrow. We'll have family over, so they at least have to pretend to be happy. Right? So we have that going for us. It'll only last one night. All right? Guys, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media channels. They're right here on the screen for you to take a look at. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. Check them all out. Show us some love. We'll show you a little love back. That's going to be it for us today. Any last words, Will?
I think you guys should be thankful to be going to a Sugar Bowl after the loss, since that's the only bowl game you've won since 2013.
And also always against Bama.
Well, yeah, Auburn, but yeah. So happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Anything from you, JJ, before we head out?
I was proud of the way Penn State played last week. I'm excited to go to the game this week. I'm thankful for Penn State's season this year. That was way better than I was expecting, even though we kind of got higher expectations in the middle. But happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there that follows us and watches us. It's been a crazy regular season. I can't believe it's already wrapping up.
It is.
That's it.
I've got to say, from all of us here, guys, on a serious level, for Thanksgiving, thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening to us bullshit around for an hour every week about college football, guys. It's a ton of fun. And that's all I got for you on that one, guys. Have a good Thanksgiving if you're watching it tomorrow. Hope you feel a little bit better soon if you're watching it on Friday. Thanks, guys, so much. We'll see you next week as we talk about the end of the regular and start getting into the bowl season of college football. This has been From the Stands.